The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the dusty streets of Byneville. The small town, known for its vibrant festivals and close-knit community, pulsed with life. At its heart stood a modest church, Faithful Light Fellowship. The simple building, adorned with a weathered wooden sign, was a beacon for the weary and the hopeful. Inside, the air was thick with a blend of incense and anticipation. The congregation filled with faces eager for the weekly gathering led by Pastor Jonathan, a charismatic man known for his impassioned sermons and warm smile. Yet, beneath the surface of this seemingly perfect community lay a troubling secret one that threatened to unravel the very fabric of their faith. Emma Thompson, a newcomer to Byneville, sat in the back row, her heart racing with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. Having recently relocated from the bustling city of Havenwood, she sought solace in this quiet town, hoping to escape the chaos of her past. She had always found comfort in her faith and cherished her well-worn Bible. Its pages filled with notes and underlined verses that spoke to her soul. But as she entered the church that first Sunday, a strange rule caught her attention. No Bibles allowed inside. The ushers, with their kind smiles, politely requested she leave her book at the door. It felt wrong, but Emma, eager to belong, complied, allowing the ushers to stow her treasured possession in a cardboard box labeled "No Bibles." As the service began, Emma felt a knot tightening in her stomach. The vibrant worship music filled the room, and Pastor Jonathan's voice resonated through the hall, soothing and melodic. Yet, as she glanced around, she noticed something unsettling. The congregation seemed entranced. Their eyes glazed over as they swayed to the music, their faces lacking the joy and fervor she expected from fellow believers. She could hear snippets of the sermon, phrases about prosperity and faithfulness, but the words felt hollow, as if something essential was missing. Days turned into weeks, and Emma found herself drawn back to Faithful Light Fellowship each Sunday. She became friends with Sarah, a bubbly woman in her 30s who had attended the church for years. "You'll love it here," Sarah said, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "Pastor Jonathan has a gift for preaching. He really knows how to move a crowd." Yet, Emma couldn't shake the unease that settled in her chest each time she saw the empty box at the entrance. One afternoon, after the service, Emma approached Sarah. "Why don't we bring our Bibles? Isn't that part of our faith? To read and understand the Word." Sarah's expression shifted, her smile faltering. "You know, it's not about the physical book. It's about the message. Pastor Jonathan believes that bringing Bibles can distract us from true worship. We have the verses displayed on the screen. It's more modern that way." Emma nodded, but the doubt lingered. Her heart ached for the wisdom contained within her own Bible. She couldn't comprehend how a church could flourish without its core text. There was something unsettling about a pastor who would discourage direct engagement with the scriptures. Her curiosity grew, and she began to ask around, trying to find answers. One evening, Emma sat with Sarah and a few other members at a local cafe. As the conversation shifted to Pastor Jonathan's charismatic leadership, Emma seized a moment to voice her concerns. "I've noticed that the words on the screen don't always match what I remember from my Bible. It's like the verses are twisted." The laughter faded, and a heavy silence filled the air. "You must be mistaken," Sarah said, her brow furrowed. "Pastor Jonathan is a man of God. He wouldn't mislead us." Emma felt her heart race, a mixture of frustration and fear swelling within her. But why wouldn't we want to verify what we're being taught? It's our right to question, isn't it? Sometimes. It's better not to question too much, whispered another member, an elderly man named Mr. Wilson, who had sat quietly in the corner. His eyes flickered with a hint of worry. You don't want to attract the wrong kind of attention. Attention? Emma's mind raced. What did he mean by that? She sensed an undercurrent of fear among her newfound friends, a hesitance to speak out against the church's practices. The conversations at the cafe sparked something deep within her, a resolve to uncover the truth about Faithful Light Fellowship and its enigmatic pastor. As the days turned into weeks, Emma observed more closely during the services. She sat through sermon after sermon, her heart growing heavier with each passing moment. The words projected on the screen seemed to speak of wealth, power, and blind obedience. They didn't match the messages of love and grace she had learned. It became unbearable. She had to take action. One Sunday, Emma made a plan. She carefully tucked her small, weathered Bible into her purse, determined to see for herself what was happening inside the church. As she entered, her heart pounded, a mix of excitement and dread coursing through her veins. The ushers were already at their post, and she felt a surge of anxiety as she approached them. "Sorry, no Bibles allowed," the usher said, a hint of annoyance in his voice as he gestured toward the box. Emma hesitated for a moment, then made a decision. "I'd like to keep it with me, please. I need it for personal reasons." The usher's expression hardened, but he stepped aside, allowing her to enter. A glimmer of hope flickered within her. Maybe she could uncover the truth after all. The service commenced, and Emma sat quietly in her usual spot, the small Bible nestled in her lap. As Pastor Jonathan began his sermon, she discreetly opened her Bible, her heart racing. She listened closely, comparing the verses displayed on the screen with her own text. It didn't take long for her unease to transform into shock. The words on the screen were distorted, twisted in a way that shifted their meanings entirely. Where her Bible spoke of love, humility, and the grace of God, the projected verses echoed the pastor's rhetoric of control and wealth. Panic surged through her, and she felt a chill creep down her spine. This was more than just a misunderstanding. Something sinister was at play. The congregation around her seemed lost in a trance, their eyes dull and vacant, swaying with the rhythm of the sermon as if caught in a spell. Emma gripped her Bible tightly, her heart pounding. What was happening? Suddenly, Pastor Jonathan's gaze fell on her, piercing and intense. A shiver ran through the air, and the choir fell silent. The congregation turned in unison, their vacant eyes now focused on Emma. Who dares bring a Bible into the house of the Lord? Pastor Jonathan's voice dripped with menace, devoid of its usual warmth. The atmosphere shifted, darkness pooling around them like an oppressive fog. Emma's heart raced as she realized the danger she was in. "I'm just here to worship," she managed to stammer, trying to hold her ground. "You defied the order of the sanctuary," he hissed, his face contorting in a way that was both familiar and grotesque. "You don't understand the risks you've taken." In that moment, Emma felt the weight of the congregation's fear. The air around her thickened, and a shadow stretched ominously behind Pastor Jonathan, twisting and coiling like a living entity. "What are you?" she whispered, her voice trembling. He laughed, a cold, chilling sound that echoed through the church. "I am the voice of this place, and you will regret challenging my authority." The lights flickered, and the once warm atmosphere became frigid, as if the very essence of hope was being drained from the room. Desperation surged within her, and she clutched her Bible, whispering a prayer. "Lord, grant me strength." The darkness pulsed, swirling around the pastor, and as she spoke, a flicker of light erupted from her Bible, illuminating the shadows that had coiled around the pastor. The congregation gasped as the twisted figure of the dark spirit emerged, its eyes glowing with malice. "No, you cannot cast me out," it screeched, its voice a discordant melody of rage. As the darkness shrieked, Emma found her voice, reciting scripture from memory. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. The glow from her Bible intensified, pushing back against the shadow, illuminating the church with a radiant light. The congregants, entranced and unaware, began to stir, awakening from their stupor. "Join me," Emma called out, her heart racing. "We can fight this together." Slowly, one by one, the members began to lift their heads, confusion transforming into clarity as they grasped the reality of their situation. Sarah stood, tears streaming down her face. "What have we done?" she whispered, her voice breaking. "The truth was here all along," Emma shouted, feeling the power of their collective faith swell around her. The light from her Bible pulsed with renewed energy, and as it did, the dark spirit howled in fury, retreating further into the shadows. "Get out!" Pastor Jonathan cried, his voice now a mere echo of its former self. "You don't understand what you're unleashing." But Emma stood firm, emboldened by the light that surrounded her. "You've deceived us for too long. We will not be afraid anymore." With one final surge of strength, Emma raised her Bible high, and the light enveloped the church, cascading over the congregation like a wave. The darkness screamed, its form twisting and writhing before it vanished entirely, leaving only silence in its wake. In the aftermath, the church stood illuminated, the warmth of hope returning to the hearts of the congregation. Emma felt a wave of relief wash over her as she lowered her Bible, the pages still warm from the divine light. The congregants, once lost in darkness, were now vibrant and alive, their expressions filled with wonder and realization. They turned to Pastor Jonathan, whose facade had crumbled. "You betrayed us," Sarah said, her voice steady yet filled with heartbreak. I was blinded," he stammered, his voice trembling. "The power, it consumed me. I thought I was doing what was right." "Faith should never be about control or fear," Emma said softly, her heart breaking for the man who had lost his way. "It should be about love, unity, and the truth of the word." As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the town, Emma felt a sense of peace wash over her. The battle was won, but the journey was far from over. She understood that true faith required vigilance, courage, and a willingness to stand up for what was right. The congregation gathered together, hands clasped in prayer as they rebuilt their community on the foundation of truth. Emma realized she was no longer an outsider. She had become a vital part of something greater, a collective spirit bound by faith and resilience. The echoes of Pastor Jonathan's twisted words faded into memory as they began to craft a new path forward, one built on the core values of love, understanding, and the unwavering belief in the light that dispels darkness. Emma smiled, knowing that while the shadows may linger, the light would always prevail, and together, they would continue to seek the truth in every word and every heart. As they stepped outside, the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, a testament to the hope that remained. Emma glanced back at the church, her heart swelling with gratitude. They had faced the darkness, and together they would rise, stronger than ever, united in their faith. The journey ahead was uncertain, but she felt ready, with her Bible in hand and her heart full of light. The story of Faithful Light Fellowship had taken a new turn, one that promised redemption and renewal for all.